former governor of the Bank of Japan, and former president of the Asian Development Bank. Professor Haruhiko Kuroda made a significant visit to Nepal in the first week of October 2023.
As usual, we can see beautiful scenery.
Professor Kuroda was in Kathmandu to deliver 3 keynote addresses as part of the Transformational Policy Discussion Series organized by Khabarhub, a renowned news portal in Nepal. During his speech, Professor Kuroda emphasized Nepal's substantial yet untapped potential for achieving robust economic growth. The Transformational Policy Discussion Series, co-organized with the Institute for Strategic and Socioeconomic Research, aimed to raise global awareness regarding Nepal's economic prospects, with similar initiatives planned for the future. While in Kathmandu, Professor Kuroda engaged in discussions on economic matters with college students, professionals, and political leaders. Additionally, he held meetings with prominent figures, including Prime Minister Puspa Kamal Dahal Prachanda. In this context, Khabarhub conducted an exclusive interview with Professor Haruhiko, covering various topics such as Nepal's economic outlook and the global economic landscape.
Sir, welcome to Khabarhub. How is Nepal treating you at the moment?
Oh yeah, I have been here for 3 days and I visited various historical heritages, and also, of course, I met the Prime Minister, Finance Minister, Foreign Minister, as well as Central Bank Governor. And of course, I delivered 3 speeches organized by this institute.
Yeah, Khabarhub and ISSR.
Yeah.
So, what impression did you get when you held discussion with the Prime Minister, with the Finance Minister of Nepal about the country's economy?
Yeah, I think at this moment, the Nepali economy is doing relatively well, recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. Maybe inflation rate is a little bit high, but I think Central Bank of Nepal will be able to contain inflation in due course. So, as far as the cyclical and short-term economic conditions are concerned, it's quite okay. The issue is more long-term issue. Despite huge potential of Nepali economy is still underdeveloped. Its per capita income is only about $1,300. So I do think that with huge potential, with human resources, well-educated young people, substantial water resources, and of course good diplomatic relationship with 2 giants, India and China. I think Nepali economy can grow much faster and could develop its economy in coming years and decades. But of course, in order to do so, government must continue to improve infrastructure, education, and also encourage private sector to do more business.
But the current situation, like when it comes to economy of the country, is a bit disappointing in Nepal. So, do you think there is headway in the near future? Any prospects?
I think the current world economic outlook, according to the IMF, is not so bad. But on the one hand, US and Europe, most of developed countries have high inflation, so that their central banks have to tighten monetary policy to reduce inflation rate. On the other hand, emerging economies, developing countries, they are doing relatively well, but as you know, the Chinese economy has somewhat slowed down, but still growing 5%. So contributing to the world economic growth. So on the whole, the world economy is doing not so bad, but
we can still be optimistic.
That's right.
but of course there are some challenges. One challenge is, as you may know, so-called fragmentation of the world economy, particularly after the war in Ukraine. Global economies have been fragmented. On the one hand, Russia, China, Saudi Arabia. On the other hand, G7 countries and Australia. They are if not fighting, but they are in sort of conflicting situation. And this fragmentation of the world economy is a matter of concern and could affect all economies, including Nepal.
So you served as the governor of the Bank of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you consider the most significant achievements during a tenure?
Yeah, from 2013 through 2023, for 10 years, I was governor of the Bank of Japan. The Japanese economy had been mired with persistent deflation from 1998 to 2012, 15-year-long deflation. So the number one task for me was to overcome deflation, long-term, 15-year-long deflation, which is quite unusual.
And I think that was challenging too.
That's right.
Yeah.
But somehow, through very expansionary monetary policy, we have overcome deflation. So in the last 10 years, inflation rate maybe fluctuated around 1%. And also economic growth returned. More important, more than 4 million jobs were created in the last 10 years.
That's a great number.
And also, the corporate profit at this stage is more than double of the level prevailed during the deflationary period. And somewhat surprisingly, the current corporate profit situation or profit level is even higher than the profit level prevailed in the late 1980s during the bubble period. So given the tight labor market, given very good business conditions, finally wages have started to rise. This spring, wage negotiations resulted in more than 3% wage increase. This is probably the highest in the last maybe 30 years or so. And I expect this situation will continue. But of course, current inflation rate of 3% is almost wholly caused by the import price hike. And so in that sense, 2% inflation target has not been met in a sustainable and stable manner because import prices are declining and consumer price inflation is declining and could decline less than 2%. But as I said, next year we can expect reasonably high wage increase, and then of course 2% inflation target may be met in a sustainable and stable manner. So I can say that yes, we could overcome the deflation, but we have not achieved 2% inflation target in a sustainable and stable manner. But conditions are okay.
They have improved a lot.
I expect 2% inflation target would be met in a sustainable and stable manner in the near future.
Sir, coming back to Nepal again, so you had discussions with students, you had discussions with professionals, businessmen. So what impression did you get from there, like from the discussion that you held with them?
Nepali students, graduate students, undergraduate students, they are very much interested in the global economic outlook. And also they are, I think, willing to further develop the Nepali economy. So that is, I think, a good point, because after all, Nepal has something like 30 million population, which is really substantial. Of course, your country is between two big giants, 1.4 billion population of China, 1.4 billion population in India. But if Nepal was located in Europe, then of course Nepal would be larger than Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Norway, Switzerland, comparable to the Netherlands and Belgium.
It would have achieved a lot.
That's right.
Yeah.
The most important point is Nepal has huge human resources. Of course, nearly 1/3 of your population may be working abroad. Particularly young people may wish to study abroad and work abroad. But I really think that many of them will come back to Nepal to start business or contributing to the economy. So I do think that, and I felt that the Nepali youth has the ambition and also
And the potential.
Yeah, potential.
Yeah. So G20 summit recently concluded in India.
Yeah.
So how do you see its future, and when it comes to including in Nepal? So what would be the impact?
G20 was created after the Asian currency crisis in 1999, and after the Lehman collapse in 2008, G20 was upgraded to summit. So G20 include actually 19 countries plus European Union, and their GDPs combined is something like 85% of the global GDP. So really, G20 represent the bulk of the world economy, so that how G20 function, how G20 agree, and so on, so will be quite decisive. And actually, in the last 15 years or so, G20 contributed greatly to agreeing to, for instance, climate change response and inflation response, development, assistance to developing countries, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, since 2022, February, that is to say, the war in Ukraine erupted, G20 has almost stopped functioning, unfortunately. Of course, it's good that in the latest G20 summit, communique was issued, because for more than 1 year, communique could not be issued. But now, under the Indian chairmanship, G20 summit issued communique. But I must say that there's not so many important agreement, realistic agreement in the communique, showing the fragmentation of global economies as reflected at the G20.
In fact, this Ukraine-Russia war has adversely affected the entire economy, global economy, including South Asia.
That's right.
Right. Of course, if you look at those Asian economies, those Asian economies which were exporting commodities like oil, gas, or food, actually benefited from high prices of oil and foods. Countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, but most of Asian countries suffered from high oil prices, high gas prices, high food prices, because both of them are importers. But now I think oil prices, gas prices, food prices went down. And in that sense, these high prices of commodities have ended, and so that negative impact of high commodity prices on commodity importing countries like Nepal, I think that phenomenon has almost ended. But the economy, the world economy is now somewhat fragmented. So that tend to reduce potential growth rate of the world, particularly emerging economies and developing countries. So that is a matter of concern.
Yeah, but we as a small country, landlocked country, Nepal is still facing that burnt of inflation.
Yeah.
Still, yeah. I think that will be very unfortunate for a landlocked country like ours. But could you share some of your perspective on the global economic landscape and how it might impact Japan's economic prospects in the coming year?
At this moment, Japanese economy is doing fine. Last year, the Japanese economy grew by 1% plus, and this year, according to the IMF forecast, 1.4%. Next year, again 1% plus. So, 3 consecutive years of 1 to 1.5% growth is very good for Japan, because Japan's potential growth rate may be about 1% or even less than 1%, reflecting continuous population decline. Now, the global economic outlook is not so bad, but fragmentation could make some negative impact on the Japanese economy. That is true. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, recently, Taiwanese semiconductor makers, famous, world's biggest semiconductor maker, TSMC, has made a huge investment in Japan to establish a big semiconductor factory in Kyushu, southern part of Japan. And also, quite a few American and European IT-related companies have started to invest in Japan. So, in that sense, although fragmentation is a matter of concern, but as far as Japan is concerned, particularly as far as semiconductor, IT-related goods productions are concerned, a lot of investment is made. And also, Japanese IT-related companies have substantially increased fixed investment in Japan for the last 12 months or so. So, certainly this fragmentation of the global economy is a matter of concern, but at this moment, Japanese economy continues to grow, and as I said, the labor market has become quite tight, and even IT-related industries have been increasing investment in Japan. So, on the whole, Japanese economy is making significant progress, overcoming slow growth in the last 25 years.
In fact, like Nepal too has been striving to achieve economic stability and growth. So what lessons can Nepal learn from Japan's economic journey, especially when it comes to monetary policy and infrastructure development?
I think as far as infrastructure is concerned, I think you need probably many more and better infrastructure. I mean, transport, energy, and also education and so on. But I think the government is doing better. And as you know, the Asian Development Bank, ADB, has so many projects here in Nepal. The only problem is that implementation is somewhat slow.
And besides, there are sometimes there is political instability. Yeah.
So, infrastructure investment must be even accelerated in this country. I think that is quite necessary for Nepal. So, as far as monetary policy is concerned, I mean, I think small open economy like Nepal is likely to be affected by global financial conditions. So it's not so easy for the Nepali central bank to manage the economy and to maintain price stability. But I'm hopeful that with determined monetary policy, you can achieve price stability. Our program in the last 30 years, from 1990, was first the bursting of bubble, bad asset problem in the banking sector, and then from 1999, deflation started. And I think the Bank of Japan did try to overcome this situation, but probably not enough. But I think in the last 10 years, the Bank of Japan did make substantial effort and overcome deflation, and also raised growth rate and improved the labor market and so on. So my humble advice is never allow double-digit inflation, but on the other hand, never allow the economy to go down and deflation, because deflation is very difficult to overcome. Yeah.
But I think that needs political commitment as well.
Yeah, of course. I think monetary policy can do a lot of things, but of course fiscal policy, regulatory policy, and all those government policies also affect economic growth inflation and also exchange rate.
How can like ADB help or support in recovering this crisis?
Yeah, I think under current President Asakawa, ADB during the COVID-19 pandemic period substantially expanded assistance to developing countries, emerging economies, two ways. One is, of course, providing significant financial resources to purchase medicines, vaccine, and so on and so forth. And on the other hand, provided substantial amount of money to government to help the people. So in two ways, during the pandemic, ADB had made a substantial contribution to relieve the impact of the COVID-19 on the economy and society. Now, COVID-19 pandemic is almost over. So post-pandemic period, ADB has been emphasizing infrastructure development, climate change response, particularly climate mitigation and adaptation. And of course, Asia is the area where CO2 emissions are quite big, and also because of dense population, climate change tends to affect seriously Asian countries. Already, drought and flood, heat wave, and so on. So sea level rise. So
even the mountains,
melting, yes, ice glacier, and so on. So this is a real problem, and so ADB has really focused on this challenge and providing a lot of technical assistance, financial assistance to developing member countries.
So we talked about climate change. It's a pressing issue, pressing global issue, I would say. So how can Japan, as a developed nation, collaborate with South Asian countries like Nepal to address climate-related challenges?
Yeah. I think in many ways, of course, in order to reduce CO2 emissions, the best way is to improve energy efficiency. Factories, homes, transport. Energy efficiency increase would significantly reduce CO2 emissions. In this area, Japan has made significant progress. Japanese offices and buildings, apartment houses are very energy efficient. And also, Japanese transport system centering around railways are also quite energy efficient. Now, that is one possible area where Japan can provide technical assistance or even financial assistance. Another is, of course, development of alternative sources of energy or renewable energies like wind power, solar power, hydraulic power, and so on and so forth. Here, of course, China is quite developed, and most of solar panels are provided by China. And also wind power, yes, most of wind power generators are provided by European countries. Now, of course, some Japanese companies are producing very efficient wind power generators and also solar power generators. And the government is very energetic to develop renewable energies in Japan. But Japan is a small country, 125 million population. So scope, potential of renewable energy generation within Japan is somewhat limited. So the best way maybe Japan helping emerging economies to further develop alternative sources of energy or renewable energy. That may be, in some sense, more efficient to reduce CO2 emissions in Asia, I think.
I think finally, based on experience, what suggestions do you have to Nepal Rashtra Bank, National Bank?
Two things. One is the banking system or banking sector. Most of Asian countries are bank-centric financial system, while US and UK have capital market-centric financial system. But most Asian countries have bank-centric financial system, meaning that strong banks, well-managed banks would be crucial, critically important for the economy to develop, because those banks would provide money for investment, particularly manufacturing or service or infrastructure, whatever. So in this sense, I think one of the issues to be tackled with squarely by the government as well as the central bank is to make the banking system more reliable, stronger, with good management. This is, of course, probably a sensitive issue, but I think, of course, the banking sector in this country is doing relatively well, but I think they must be further improved. Then, of course, short-term demand management must be done by the central bank rather than the government. Government has huge policy tools, public expenditures, tax system, regulation, and so on and so forth. But most of them are used for long-term development issues. On the other hand, monetary policy can be a very good policy to manage the cyclical fluctuations and avoid inflation or deflation. So in that sense, I think central bank will continue to be the most important macroeconomic institution for cyclical stability and price stability.
So what message do you have to Nepalese people?
I think, as I said, Nepal has huge potential. And this huge potential must be maximally utilized. And then, of course, Nepali society, economy would further develop. And I'm relatively optimistic about the future of the Nepali economy.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.